Welcome to Comic Cave, the ultimate podcast where art and Dungeons and Dragons collide. I'm your host, DNDWife, and I'm thrilled to take you on a creative journey like no other. Each week, we'll dive into the world of fantasy art, exploring stunning digital pieces, intricate miniature paintings, and captivating character portraits. I'll be joined by amazing guest hosts, sharing their insights, tips, and tricks to help you bring your own artistic visions to life. We'll uncover the stories behind each artwork, from the initial spark of inspiration to the final brushstroke. And as a special treat, much of the art we discuss will be from our beloved homebrew world of Extraeus. So whether you're a seasoned artist, a curious newbie, or just a fan of nerd culture, Comic Cave is here to inspire and connect you with the magic of creating art that reflects your passions. Join us every week on Comic Cave, and let's embark on this artistic adventure together. Don't forget to subscribe and let your imagination soar. Welcome back, my fellow nerds, to another episode of Comic Cave, where we dive into the incredible art and storytelling of the Traveler series. I'm DNDWife.
And I'm DM Eguile, and today, as always, we have a special guest with us, the amazing artist, EntLynk.
Hey, everybody. Super excited to break down another comic in the Traveler series. This one is Captain V to the Rescue, where action, mystery, and a little bit of humor collide.
We're talking dynamic paneling, intense fighting scenes, and how art brings the story to life. So grab your sketchbooks, roll for inspiration, and let's dive in.
I also got to say, it has been pretty awesome with how many episodes now. I mean, this is what number comic in the grand scheme of things?
This is 10.
Right, so I think that's a pretty, I just wanted to point out, 10
double digits.
Yeah, it's something to be, I think both you should be really happy of.
Yeah, this is awesome. It's a good milestone, and I'm really excited to talk about this piece too. I think it's a phenomenal showcase that every time that we see a new comic, it's just better and better and better.
That's what it's about. Don't give up, you guys. Just keep
practice,
drawing.
Right? It just shows. Just look at all the different episodes from the beginning to now. You'll see all of the growth. It's been phenomenal.
Right, and we've only been doing this for a little bit.
Yeah.
So obviously it just shows only a little bit of time is needed.
Totally.
But in that sense, I want to tackle this comic that we're trying to focus on today, Captain V to the Rescue. What is that really about? In the first panel, we see Drexla with the cutest expression on her face, just flying off on Captain V, leaving him in the dust while he's trying to be like, hey, wait up here. And she's doesn't
trying
care.
to tell her, hey, it's not safe.
Yeah.
I think it's like a flying character versus someone who has to walk.
Right.
Always from Drexla's perspective, it's like, why are you so slow? Like, what do you mean you got to walk a path?
Oh, yeah. And, in the next panel, all we get are in bright pink are these warnings, these readings, all signaling danger. But it's unfortunately a little too late. The net is right there in our faces, and it seems inescapable. What happens next?
Yeah, the third panel, we see that she is in the net. We've got some villains.
In the net.
We got caught.
In the net.
Yeah.
And V, being as pragmatic as he is trying
He finally
to be,
caught up.
Yeah, he's trying to be there for his crewmate, and he's like, hey, dude, let her go.
Yeah, come on. Drop that fairy.
And then the fourth panel, we're going to see that, they get into it, they tussle, but the net has been thrown aside. They've got other things to deal with.
Yeah.
But Drexla manages to wiggle herself out of it. And she recognizes these people.
She knows who they are. They're the 66. Must be a dastardly group of people I don't like then.
So we don't know their motives at this point, but this is the first inkling that we see.
We know they're kidnappers.
Something is, she's got a backstory. She's got stuff that she's not necessarily telling us yet.
Right. But poor Captain V takes a mortal blow here.
Yeah, he's kind of we love his motivation. We love his energy that he brought to the table here in this scene. But he was down for the count before it even started, practically.
The good news is that his untimely coming into the battle really provided a sort of a opportunity for Drexla to break free and get out where she needed to.
It gives her the chance where in the next scene she's taking these guys out.
Yeah,
she's just popping them with her little crossbow gauntlet. And then we see the aftermath where Luna and her are having a little conversation, framing in the background.
It's so good.
Tobias and V are just kind of, he's just healing him. He's
trying to do his own thing.
Yeah.
Like that shame where it's like don't say anything. It's
like,
just don't say anything.
Yeah.
It's like I love how poorly hidden he is too. It's like not that great.
Well, it's like she's a fairy. How quickly can she drag a
She is very
full-size,
small.
male underneath freaking hay?
Right.
No, she did really good.
But I think my absolute favorite aspect of this comic, particularly, I know you've really been sticking to the black and white with adding like little pops of color here and there. But here, I think it really brings home that like gritty, nostalgic style that like is classic to a few of the like comics from the 50s, the comic books from back then, where the lines were a little simpler, but you got a lot more detail, especially in the action scenes, and everything was a little grittier because it was mostly black and white or like very specific colors. They couldn't go too crazy with the colors, so they needed to make the line work do the talking for them. And I think this is where it becomes really evocative here. Everything has a purpose, even if it is spread out, even if it is like in the second panel, right? Everything's more open because we're really entering this open battle space. But I think that is a good thing because it shows where you are, where everything's at, and it shows where kind of like their parameters are for the battle too. It gives us a sense of what's happening, and all the subsequent details just give us more and more. And each panel, you kind of like it's like if you're really into like the Where's Waldo or something like that, you love finding all the little tiny nuances and details, and you find new ones as you come back and look at the panels over and over again too, because they're nice and small, and you just like can see different things.
My heart can't handle this. I really appreciate you saying that.
I also like the nuance with like where you do use color, and with in my table, I have linked every player to a particular color.
That's true.
Their bases are painted, and if you look, this is another example of where anything that happens to do with Drexla is in pink, and then anything that happens to do with Luna is in that purple. And so it even is the nuance of the very last panel that there's this purple, kind of effect around Luna now that she's in the shot.
Yeah, my little exclamation, like, oh my gosh, what's happening? That I will say that is something really cool. I love the fact that the color coding has stayed. You've really kept true to that.
I really love that pairing because the black and white definitely started with wanting to keep things like singular and cohesive, and also just streamlining
Simple,
production. So I can focus on fundamental. Yes.
Yeah.
And I just really like how it's kind of transformed into its own style, especially with the color coding, because we, like you said, we use it in other things around the table in the game. And so it's just that perfect opportunity to like add a little bit of color or signify different characters.
Yeah, and they're not just in there for pop. They have meaning. They have purpose behind the color too, which I love.
I did like the opportunity to use Drexla's pink as her like heads-up display.
That was the part I liked the most. That was cool.
Perfect. And I absolutely think that she would do that for her HUD. She would definitely have that installed, into her programming already. You can just tell because her jumpsuit is pink. Like she just loves the color. I imagine you nailed it right on the head.
Thank
there.
You guys.
It's just phenomenal. I also think the little conventional weapons that they had, like the swords and stuff, but then they also had like these weird contraptions that kind of look like guns, but not really.
Yeah, I looked up for a reference. I looked up on Google like a net gun, and I was like, they could probably have this in.
They could do that.
It's a typical net gun. It's a net launcher.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's in 5e.
All right.
It's all legit. Yeah, it's canon.
It's simple.
Doesn't
enough,
do damage or anything. It just traps you.
It's canon. It's a net cannon.
Yeah, net cannon. Get it?
But
I tried.
Oh my.
Gotta get them DMs.
Right. But what was your favorite part of this as the artiste?
I think I definitely have to say the last panel for me, just because it's the conversation that frames what's going on in the background, and I feel like I most efficiently used my space in that panel, and I don't know, it could definitely be like extrapolated into its own little scene just because I love it so much.
I like that. It's definitely your use of like that dynamic perspective to make everything flow together properly while still including all of these different characters and people and even items in the background too.
That was definitely the biggest challenge with this piece, is because it's more actiony and there's a lot going on in seemingly like such a short time that I really wanted to like jam pack it without it looking too busy or too crazy or like not, you know, followable.
I gotcha. Yeah. Like I said, the simple lines, but it's still so evocative because you're focusing on the details that matter.
Yeah, and I think that things being in perspective, it adds that dynamism, but it also like there's those clear lines of action.
Yeah.
And there's so much going on in like each panel. I think it really helps it.
Absolutely. There's everything that shows exactly what's going on. Even the crosshairs, like that's not really there except in Drexla's tech. So she's the only one who can see that, but it's there for us to know that she can see that. So I love it. All the detail really drives it home. Even the circle that appears on the guy's back in that second to last panel is perfect. And that's one thing I have to say, the character placement in these has been so great. The first panel really shows that Drexla's just like flying off. She's already, zooming away from V. She's not even giving him a chance to catch up. She gone, and so that like you said, the motion lines are really there to show us that she's just not even paying attention at this point. And then as we go through the other panels, you see that all of it has purpose. The lines of motion stay there, and it shows also not just going forward, but lines of motion that show the same trajectory, but this time V falling backwards with a wound inflicted on him. The same type of art style or the same type of technique, but used to convey a completely different scene, different emotion, different everything.
Totally. I use it so much in this comic page just because it is so effective.
Yeah.
Like, I do also love that third panel where V is confronting the assailants, and it's that same framing that we have in the last panel, but it's not a friendly conversation. It's definitely more of like an opposition. I feel like that also helps to clearly communicate that, just because these are like these like dark singular figures, and then we've got the spotlight on this like heroic action from V
coming in to the rescue, right? Kind of like a play. He's center stage as he comes in. Totally. I definitely like that.
And then it's swiftly cut down.
Yeah, he had his moment.
She tried his best, But one thing I will have to say about the placement here that I just have to point out is, we all talked about how difficult it was going to be to place Drexla because she's so small in comparison to the rest of the characters into these comics, and how you were going to sort of surmount that challenge as you went on. But the character placement here is so good because they've discarded her in the little like net sack that they had her in. So she's behind them technically, and they're in front dealing with V. So it's a really good way to make her look like a little bigger to us, while still showing that in the perspective, she's only looking bigger because she's closer to us than she is to the fight going on behind her.
Totally. I love drawing Drexla and her little pigtails and her little outfit. And it's that double bonus where it's like, the viewer actually gets to see her, and I get to actually draw her instead of this little like, glowing speck, like a little sprite or something, but
less
like
detailed.
Yes, I love using these perspective games with Drexla. It makes it possible for sure.
Absolutely. But with that, I want to talk a little bit about the challenges too, because not everything is fun and games in this. There are always those frustrations we get with the pieces of art that we work on, and no artist is exempt from that. We all fall into those things. It's just sometimes it's so finicky we can't get it right. But I want to discuss, what were some of the challenges here that you came to run into?
Definitely, like, as a little bit mentioned before, about like just making it not feel busy, but also conveying that it is action packed and things are happening
while not being too crowded.
Like trying to make things like feel in sequence. So I think that like Drexla's tech, like they add a little bit of storytelling where we're seeing through Drexla's eyes, like we're seeing what she's getting through her technology, instead of like me wasting or quote unquote wasting like 4 panels just to like convey that information elsewise. Right,
to show us exactly what's going on. Definitely more of like the impression of what's going on, because you can't just convey it scene by scene by scene. We'd have to animate it at that point.
Yeah, definitely. It's
later
maybe later. We'll see.
We'll get picked up, no problem.
Right.
But no, I definitely agree that it's like it's definitely that balance where you're trying to not like be so committed to it, where it's like actually an animation versus like being so sparse where no one knows what's going on or what's happening.
Yeah, I think that's where the like I said, that gritty lines that you did for this comic specifically, and that you've kept it as the theme, because they're like rougher, simpler lines, but because of that, I think the rougher lines can convey more emotion than cleaner lines would. And you have cleaner lines in here, like when you do the HUD overlay for Drexla, those are cleaner words, lines, symbols. Those are all super clean and fresh looking there. So it's not like a resolution thing, or like you know, or like a mistake. You did it on purpose because it's conveying like the darkness of what's happening around here.
Totally. And like varying your like the brushes that you're using, or like the stylized, like you said, like the sharp versus more sketchy, like it'll always kind of convey a mood instead of being like flat. So I do like that, where like Drexla, we're getting more like technological, I guess, like perfection.
Overlays, layers,
She's got a little more like tech and like straight lines, while like, you know, especially with the action, like you're not trying to be perfect. So things will be a little more like dirty, for lack of a better word.
For you know, battle, for the fighters in our group, the battle is something that is, you know, unpredictable, so you're never going to have perfect lines of anything. We even see here for the attackers, you know, they're coming at V very roughly, they're just swinging around, nobody's got any real like tactic here except for Drexla. She's got the tech, and then same thing with like things like magic. You know, you've portrayed a little bit of magic in the comics as well. They're not very clean. It's very sporadic, because magic is this kind of wild, unexpected thing. So really Drexla is the only one that gets like these super sharp, clean lines, which I like, because it really shows the difference, like where the spotlight is in this. As we were talking, you know, as we talk about in some of the other episodes, certain spotlights give certain opportunities for characters to glow, and I think you do that in art form in this sense here, for Drexla, where this is really kind of a little moment for her.
Thank you. I do definitely try that. Like, and even in like later comic installations, like I've started using like different fonts for different characters to kind of like sell their vibe, or you know,
it's like an accent.
Totally, or just kind of like sell something different. And like you said, like in the images themselves, like with Drexla being so like swift and on point with everything she does, I want to emulate that.
Mechanical.
And it's like that visual storytelling aspect,
right? And that is tough too, because you're having to do so much for the backgrounds too. There's the background of the forest, then there's the festival grounds, then there's this foreground where they're standing on. There's so much work to be done in this piece, and like you can really fall into that, like making it too busy almost if you're not careful.
Totally. That's why I try to just kind of scoot by on stylization and lean more into that. And I don't know, I think that it definitely helps to also like, sometimes I'll leave the background like not sparse, but just kind of like blurred out and like simple, because that's not where the eye is going.
A little out of focus, like a camera almost.
Totally.
I
so
like
that. Especially in an action scene, it's going to be like moving around and different.
And you're not focusing on the background. You're focusing on the people attacking each other.
Totally. So I think that balance is evident, that I'm working that out through this piece.
Yeah, I like that very much. It also, we're not paying attention to the tents behind Captain V, right? We're wondering what Captain V is doing there and what these hooded figures are up to with Drexla in a net. You know, so it's really important to show to, as an artist, like there are things that you have to kind of pick and choose where the importance lies.
Oh, totally.
The background is not always as important. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you want to hide little details in there to kind of entice characters. But other times you want to like focus less on that and more on the character work.
Totally. I think that sometimes, like, you'll see it in the largest panel here. I believe that's number 4. Things are going on in the foreground and the background, but all lines and values kind of lead you to the main characters. So we have V, who's getting downed by this sword slash, and then we have Drexla, who's like actually giving like the teeniest bit of exposition to what's going on. And I think that, you know, there's no background really besides like the action lines, like the little like halo of anime lines, and then like the grass to denote where Drexla is.
True.
And I think I really enjoyed stylizations like that to just kind of like keep things balanced, direct the person's eye.
Absolutely. And I will say, I hadn't noticed it until you pointed out the grass, but even more so now, having Drexla in that foreground, you can see that the grass is behind Drexla, but it's also in front of the attacker. So they're definitely separated by some distance there. They're not in the same area, which is even crazier detail, even deeper than we were thinking about, or even that I was. So I really like that. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. And like I said, that even lends it to what I was saying before, where you find these little new things every time you go through a panel.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, very well done. But looking at all of this awesome artwork, we also want to talk about where we pull from to get it's a lot, right? To have all of these different things planned out and put these giant pieces together. There's a lot, and references are a big part of that, especially when you're planning out the piece beforehand.
It's definitely a process and a learning curve. So you can I can tell because I have the background information.
True.
But I feel like when looking at the comics, you can totally tell when I wasn't mapping things out first, and then when I did start to do that, I was able to see. I feel so bad for not remembering his name, but he worked on shows like Harley Quinn and Scooby-Doo, and I was able to take a little seminar from him, and he talked about that, and I was like, okay, this is what professionals do. This seems like such a doy moment after the fact, but creating especially in an action scene like this where a ton of stuff is happening, I've learned to kind of write things out, events as bullet points, and then mapping out different mock-ups. You want at least 2 or 3 at least to work out how big or how you want the panel set up, because it does make more or less sense what panels and what framing you use for each moment. It flavors it a little different, or it presents it differently. So I think that something that definitely shows that I'm working out in this piece.
Absolutely.
And I would definitely recommend for people who are trying to get into comics to do that background work first to set yourself up later.
Okay.
I feel like it helps to you knock out obstacles that would seem obvious once you start to, if you were to just jump into making it,
then you might give up halfway through the piece because you didn't anticipate the problem.
You're I made this huge mistake, let me just, it's worthless,
I'm done,
let me just give up.
Oof, I can see that. But I also wanted to ask, when you're making these sketches, right, what is the level of detail that you go into? Because obviously a lot of us run into this issue when we're planning out a sketch, is we treat it a lot like the finished piece, where we have to get every detail perfect and you have to do everything. So how detailed do you go? Is it just lines and conveyances, or is it full on sketch?
I totally get what you're saying, and I do struggle with that sometimes. I think it is just when the vibes are right, and you're okay, this drawing is really when you're in this flow state, sometimes you will, I think the term is direct drawing, where you don't really make a mock-up or plan out your
start
shapes.
And go.
You just go, line art first. But sometimes it works like that, and other times for the most part, I do kind of block out shapes and characters first, and then I'll use those character shapes to draw perspective lines and draw the background from there.
Oh, okay.
So some people they would advise to do backgrounds first, and then they set the characters within the scene, and I totally have had moments where that would have worked out better, I guess, for editing purposes. But for the most part, me being a character artist first, that's just naturally where I start with. But most of the time, it starts with shapes.
Yeah, you just kind of block it out first, not too detailed.
Yeah, it helps to kind of get a gist of your, what is it called? The
the finished product.
Why am I blanking on this word, guys? Composition.
There you go. Composition. Yes.
I don't know if we want to leave that in. Sheesh.
You're good.
I know words, I promise.
It happens.
I get you totally. But speaking of composition, there are different things that we use to organize ourselves to help us when we're trying to create a sort of plan for what we're going to create in our pieces. And that's tough when we don't have a way to organize. But what are some of the amazing art resources and community support that we have to be able to, put as much effort and as much information into a piece as we can? There are a few awesome things. We have a couple of websites that we really love using. Personally, Pinterest is my favorite. I love Pinterest.
I have to agree with you there.
Right. I just think it has a plethora of images of everything you could possibly search for. And it's easily organized into different folders. All, you can name them different things to different themes, divide them into whatever you want, whatever organization you want, by color, by theme, or date, time, whatever. Anything you want can be done there. And I think that's perfect. And you particularly love using the desktop version.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I've always used the mobile version. But then once I finally got my own like desktop setup, I went on Pinterest and I was like, oh my God, this is like a whole new world. I like finally like kind of felt that spark of, oh, this is what everyone's talking about. Because I didn't really feel that on the mobile app. Gotcha. It just hits different.
It is. It's a simpler version. I've used the desktop version like a little bit. I just find the convenience of the mobile version a little easier for like if I'm on the go and inspiration just like hits me while I'm doing something somewhere where the computer's not available. I can just quickly be like, check it out on Pinterest and save it real quick.
It's also a really nice like scroller. You can just kind of scroll, and it is nice to have things like at your fingertips at all times, because I'm definitely showing my pins to like, if I'm, oh, here's what I'm talking about, like I can just show you. But I think having it on desktop and like showing, like it's just a bigger screen to see everything at once. It really like puts the collage into effect for me.
But you do have a few that I haven't heard of, that I haven't used, like Pose Maniacs and Figurosity. What are those about?
Those are good for like if you're not necessarily looking for a specific pose, but you're looking for like gesture drawing inspiration and stuff that is kind of just like, I guess, more out of the ordinary than just like standing around. Like that,
more dynamic poses.
Yeah. Figurosity is like 3D models, and then Pose Maniacs, they're also 3D, but they show the musculature, so it's also very helpful for like anatomy and stuff like that.
That's cool.
That is really cool. Yeah, I'm actually probably gonna look that up now. Thank you, because I hadn't heard of those before.
I've definitely been like, I just get kind of influenced from like my For You page, and I'll save like, oh, this artist recommends this website, let me check it out later.
Right, always keep that. That's good information.
Cool. Then I don't know about you guys, but I have a couple YouTubers that I really respect their content. I really like Mark Burnett and I hope I'm not butchering this, Sean Bianchi.
Oh, okay.
He does his channel is called The Art Mentor, and so they give both like really practical drawing advice, and then Sean Bianchi, he does like business type advice, because he's like a teacher and he does all this other stuff
on how to like sell your art and stuff.
So he's like been in the industry for so long that he kind of gives it just feels like a more like grounded, realistic version, instead of like a clickbait, get comms quick type of scheme,
get rich quick with these 3 tips. I totally get that. And being part of the Discord now, thanks to your invite, has been really eye-opening. He has like different contests for every month, discussions on different topics, ranging in different art scenarios. So it's really awesome to see all the community engagement too.
Totally. It opened my eyes as well, just to have, like you said, like a community of artists, like you're all kind of within like the same space and mentally, so you can kind of like give each other tips and like critique, and like not feel like you're asking your friends, so they're gonna be biased or something like that.
Or they're gonna be nice because they don't want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah, so I think it's really cool to just like talk with other artists who kind of like get what's going on, they kind of can be in your shoes.
They'll be more realistic, and they'll be able to point things out too without being mean, because sometimes your friends don't quite know,
or in a more technical sense where you feel like you can like actually take the advice and implement it versus just like someone who's like, I don't know what about it, but I don't look right. I don't know what it is, I can't help you,
but I don't like it.
But there's tons of different resources out there, and people who are into art for different reasons. Like there's also True Ref and Pose Reference. There's different like independent artists who take their own photography, and so like for even better for gesture drawing is to actually have photo reference.
True.
And there's people who are doing who are providing those custom references like especially for fantasy artists and like different poses that you would otherwise recreate yourself, which I am a huge advocate for making your own references.
Right. And some of these are paid, but also some of these are free, which is really nice to have out there in a land where resources that are free are very hard to come by.
Yeah, seriously.
You know, I will say there is a great thing to say. You touched on it a little bit about the importance of community and personal reference too, because, you know, we can scroll Pinterest all day and Google images all day and try to find inspiration there. But sometimes discussion really helps kind of bring that out. And so when you have a community of people that you can bounce ideas off of that aren't just like, you know, your friends that don't maybe quite know the technicalities of what you're talking about, it can really help bring out more of what you wanted in the piece, I think.
Totally. People who have like been where you want to be and can give like real feedback and stuff. Like, there's the Art Mentor Discord that we talked about, and there's also the Couple of Nerds Discord that we've been building up, which does like not just art but like lore and like world building and writing and stuff like that, which I really appreciate. It's definitely helped me with my writing a little bit.
Cool. I'm glad, right? Anything that helps the community, where, you know, everybody's here to help. And I think that's the biggest thing about the art community is we're all just super helpful because it's all about the art. It's not about anyone being on top or anything like that. It's all about making the next best art. That's all. Totally.
Even like at the base of it, like just making art for yourself, because that is, especially a lot of us artists are, we can be introverted, or we don't necessarily express ourselves in like the ways that other more extroverted people might. So like this is us kind of expressing what's inside, and I think that that's like that's really important. And I think that that's also like why taking your own references or making your own references is really cool, because only you know the vibe that you want to go for. And if you have this specific thing in your mind that you don't know how to get to paper, like you have the power to make those weird angles and like to take those pictures and like transform it into whatever you're trying to do. Yeah,
absolutely. There's something to be said about like you know, taking the initiative and doing it yourself. There's always a room for that. I think that's really helpful. If you just can't find the reference for it, make it yourself. Figure it out. You know, there's always a way. I think if you're hard pressed for something. But honestly, there's so much imagery out there. It's hard not to find.
You could even like I think they call it photo bashing, where you take a piece of one and you just kind of like cut
mush
that
it
piece
with another.
You just kind of like stack the pieces that you want in the order you want them, and you've kind of Frankensteined a little reference for yourself. Like,
that works, right?
Totally.
You figure it out.
Professionals do that all the time.
Yeah. And, you know, and you had just figure out how to put it together. But that's a wrap on today's episode of Comic Cave. A huge thanks to our guest and artist EntLynk for joining us and sharing her incredible insights on Captain V to the rescue.
Thank you again for having me. It's always a blast, and I can't wait to see what's next for the Traveler series.
And if you want to check out the artwork yourself, be sure to join us on the Couple of Nerds Discord. We'll be posting all the latest panels there, so come hang out and share your thoughts.
Don't forget to like, review, and subscribe to the podcast. It really helps us grow. Until next time, keep creating, keep adventuring, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Comic Cave. We hope you feel inspired to create and explore new artistic horizons. Before we go, we'd love to stay connected with you. Join our Couple of Nerds Discord community to share your own artwork, connect with fellow artists, and submit your ideas for future episodes. We can't wait to see what you create and hear your suggestions. And don't forget to check out our Couple of Nerds YouTube channel, where we showcase the artwork discussed in each episode. Watch detailed videos that highlight the inspirations, techniques, and stories behind each piece. Stay tuned for more episodes, where we'll continue to dive into the vibrant world of fantasy art and Dungeons & Dragons. Your creativity is the heart of Comic Cave, and we're excited to see it shine. Make sure to subscribe to Comic Cave, leave us a review, and spread the word. Until next time, keep creating, stay inspired, and may your imagination know no bounds. This is DNDWife signing off. Happy creating, everyone.